in the Chesapeake Bay on the horizon, 10 miles away. The average depth here is 10 feet, 20 feet.
Oh, wow.
That's all.
Do you know
Main shipping channels are 50 to 60 deep.
Would you happen to know, more or less, where was the ship or the ships that were blowing the fort?
There are 50 British warships out there. These are big 80-gun warships with 400 or 500 men on board each ship. But they're too big to come up the river. So all of those ships are way down in the Chesapeake Bay. You see that point of land behind that ship?
Yes.
That's the Chesapeake Bay. And that's where the British Army of 5,000 troops landed and marched 10 miles through the countryside until they got to the outskirts of Baltimore. And then they waited for the British Navy the next day to come up. And so the only ships that came up here were a shallow draft, the light vessels. So only about 20 vessels were anchored out here attacking the fort. And those are called bomb ships. They're the ones that fire these 200-pound exploding bombs. And that's an original one right there. I found that one over here about 30 years ago. And that one is the most destructive weapon on the planet in 1914, that 200-pound thing of iron. So that would be fired from a ship 2 miles out, go 1 mile up in the sky, and then about 15, 20 seconds later.
And what's the range of the...
This has a range of 1.5 miles, and the British knew that, and that's why they anchored out of range.
And what about their range?
They could range easily 2 miles.
Oh wow. Oh wow.
Melodies.
Imagine.
So Francis Scott Key, he's on a small American flag or truce vessel, very small vessel, maybe 80 feet on deck. And that's used by the State Department here to carry dispatches to the British government, the British Navy, and to Washington. That's their only job. And so Francis Scott Key, who was a very well-known lawyer in Washington, was assigned by the president to obtain the release of a friend of his, a doctor friend, whom the British had captured earlier. So that's why Francis Scott Key is out here on that small truce vessel to obtain the release of his doctor friend. But the British aren't going to let them go yet. So that morning, as the British ended the bombardment, he witnessed the flag going up, the fifes and drums here playing the national song, Yankee Doodle. And he was on a small boat, just about where that ship is right now, off to the left hand. You see the end of one ship sticking out, that's where his ship was, at a perfect vantage point. Watch the flag going up that morning.
And what was the reason for the 1812 war?
The War of 1812 war was a result of the Napoleonic Wars. In 1793, France declares war on England, and that's the beginning of a 20-year war we call the Napoleonic Wars. A 20-year war between England and France, the power struggle. And we're caught in the middle of it, and there's nothing we can do about it. But England is stopping our ships in the high seas and taking our ships and cargo. There's nothing we can do about it. So we declared war on England to preserve free trade and the rights of American sailors.
Okay. And this is the original place where the flag was?
The wall, these walls and the buildings are original. They date back to 1794.
Right, but that same spot is
that's
where
a copy of the
flag
original
was.
flagpole. That's 100 feet high.
The surviving flag.
We replace the flagpole about every 20 years. That's a Douglas fir tree from the state of Washington. That's where we get all of our flagpoles from. The tree is sent here and we carve it right here on site. And so if I had the big one up today and it's too windy for it, it'd come all the way down to that black band and help hold the two masts together and come over the top of that building to the left. So on a clear night with our lights on it, you can see it all the way to the Chesapeake Bay. So there are only 5 sites in America that are allowed to fly the flag day and night, regardless of weather conditions or orders of the White House. This is one of them.
Oh,
say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we wave at the twilight's last gleaming? The rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof that our flag was still there.